Council our Representative Earl Blumenauer. Congressman Earl Blumenauer. Good morning, Congressman. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here today. In honor of your many years of diligent service to the City of Portland, we've prepared a formal recognition document and a short presentation from the Portland Bureau of Transportation. But before we do that, we wanted to have the opportunity for my colleagues to say a few things that they would like to share personally in addition to the formal recognition document that we've put forth. Commissioner Rubio could not be here this morning, but she asked me if I would please read her comments on her behalf, and so I'll do that. I'm sorry I can't join the council this morning. I will be at a rally with Americans for Contraception, an issue that I know is near and dear to Congressman Blumenauer. Today, I'm honored to recognize his many decades of service to Portland, not only for his 14 terms in the United States Congress, but also for the impact that he made in the Oregon legislature, on the Multnomah County Commission, and right here on the Portland City Council. I've been so proud to be his constituent, but I'm especially proud to count him as a friend and as a mentor. Congressman Blumenauer is nationally recognized for his outspoken advocacy for transportation equity, environmental justice, cannabis decriminalization, and so many other important causes that affect the lives of all Portlanders. Slate once crowned him as, quote, the biggest bike dork in Congress, unquote, and I was thrilled to join him in 2022 for the opening of the Congressman Earl Blumenauer Bicycle and Pedestrian Bridge, a vital connection that will remind future Portlanders of his profound impact on our community. Thank you, Earl, for making Portland a greener, more equitable, and more thriving place to live. There will never be another leader like you. Those are the words of Commissioner Carmen Rubio. Commissioner Mapps.
Well, thank you, and I do apologize for being a little bit late today. I am honored to have this moment to recognize the remarkable career of Congressman Earl Blumenauer, who has been an inspiration to me for decades, truly one of the reasons why I chose a life of public service, and I'll tell you, since I've been on council, in many ways I've have had the privilege to walk in your footsteps as the commissioner in charge of transportation. You've done amazing work in the transportation space. I will tell you, for those of you who are relatively new to Portland or much younger than I, Earl is truly, I think, one of the founding fathers of the streetcar movement here in Portland. We are grateful for that. I also want to recognize the congressman for his life spent advocating for the people of Portland. Everything from his early days in the legislature to the Multnomah County Board of Commissioners to this city council. And as we've heard, as a member of Congress for nearly 3 decades, the congressman has been a leader and advocate for transportation, environmental protection, and public health. He has championed mass transit and bike infrastructure long before those were popular issues. And today, Portland is very much a model for cities across the nation, and we owe that to you, sir. So thank you so much for everything that you have done. I will also recognize that the congressman has shaped national conversations around healthcare and ending the prohibition against marijuana. In addition to all that, we know that there is something unique and special about the congressman. He brings a personal touch to his work, everything from his bike pins, which we are all wearing today, to the fruit cakes he bakes, to his authentic love for our city. And as the congressman moves on to the next chapter in his life, I want to thank him for everything that you've done for our city, and we look forward to working with you at PSU. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Mapps. Commissioner Ryan.
Yes, good morning, Congressman Blumenauer. It's so good to see you. I want to thank you for your decades of service. You've brought so much vibrancy to this city, and it really does go back so many years because you were in one of these seats, and following your career has been as a fanboy at one time, and then I got to know you as the human being that you are, and that's the part that I'll probably focus on the most. I did try to tie a bow tie this morning. I was a complete failure. I even had those YouTube videos. So anyway, I respect you even more for doing that every day. I have one that I clearly never use. Anyway, I digress about bow ties. But the truth is you brought a lot of fun to this role of public service. You've allowed Portlanders to be their best selves, wearing our bike pins. And when we go back east and such, people recognize them when you're in Washington, D.C., so they know you're from Oregon and you're connected to Congressman Blumenauer. I didn't know that until recently, actually, when I experienced it. But I also want to talk about some of your legacies that maybe don't get as much attention. When I was the CEO at Portland Schools Foundation that became All Hands Raised, I found out shortly after taking the position that you were the reason we had that big event every year. It used to be called Hacks and Flacks. And you knew no matter what your role was that our public schools were always need to be a priority. That's always our long-term economic plan, is seeing our students and really getting them from cradle to career. And you just understood that. And you also were a data geek like me, so every time we'd meet, you really didn't want to talk about anything but the data. So I learned that I always needed to bring that to you. And the reason you liked it is because it allowed you to really see what was going on and how we were having impact. And so I understood that you had such a through line to your service. And I always did really appreciate that. Another story I want to share, this is one you don't know about, but a dear friend lives in Southeast Portland. Her child was at that age where they were learning to ride a bike. So I don't know, 4 or 5, they were outside riding their bike and you were watching them do that with their dad and you were on your bike, of course. It was like on a Saturday or Sunday and you stopped and you talked to the child for a while. So I came over about a half hour after you left and they were just buzzing. And I think that that's what people don't always see is Earl the human. That's just connecting with Portlanders. And I just really do see that and appreciate it. Another one that I just want to share real quick was the fact that you've been such an advocate for the queer community. And you showed that just recently with the dedication of Irvine Stadium and as a place where there was a league that went way, way back. And it was a gathering place for basically Portland's lesbian community as well. And you understood those roots and the value of that. And so that's just another example of what makes Portland Portland is the nuance and is getting out there and seeing what brings joy to Portlanders' heart and connecting with that. And I'll end with this. When I first was sworn in September of 2020, it was probably the most challenging time in our city's history. And you were calling me quite a bit, and I really enjoyed it. And I got to know you as more of a mentor and a big brother friend. And you gave me such sage advice, and you talked me through a lot of challenging decisions that were coming up. And you were able to look at all sides of the issue and really just reason with me and be very rational. And so I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for your mentorship and your service. And I'm just so happy for you and your family and whatever this next chapter holds. And you will be missed in this role. And I know that your next chapter is going to be something big and wonderful, no matter what it is. And I look forward to being a part of it in any way that I can. Thank you so much, Congressman Blumenauer, for your years and years and years of public service to our great city, our great state, and our country. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ryan. Commissioner Gonzalez.
Congressman Blumenauer, I would like to echo the comments of my colleagues. Our time together has not overlapped quite as long as many of the other folks up here. However, the deep imprints you've left on the city in your half-century of service cannot be overstated. Honestly, though, what excites me the most is what the future holds, and your future contribution is the opportunity to partner on shaping the future of our city by leveraging the lessons of the past, recognizing the current opportunity. Our collective endeavor is how to lift the spirit of a city at a historic inflection point. And I look forward to witnessing and partnering with you and building the blueprint for the city for the next 50 years. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, Commissioner Gonzalez. And now I'm going to turn it over to the Director of Transportation. Director Williams is here. Number one, she wanted to be here. And number two, Earl, as we're all keenly aware, some of your greatest contributions, both locally and nationally, have been around transportation. So we thought this would be a really appropriate segue into transportation. Welcome, Director Williams.
Thank you so much, Mayor Wheeler, members of the council. and Congressman Blumenauer. It is my delight to be here this morning. My name is Millicent Williams. I am the director of the Portland Bureau of Transportation, and I'm proudly serving in that role with 1,000 people who know your work, respect your work, and thank you for your work. There are any number of examples of how you've shown up in support of not just the Bureau, but the city, because you have a human-centered approach to problem solving. You see the problem, you see the need, you see the people, and you work to ensure that we're applying the solutions to the problem and not creating more problems by finding ways to make things difficult. In most recent years, and especially in the past year and some months that I've been with the Bureau, I'm pleased to be able to state that you're seeing the problems, you've heard the challenges, you've heard the concerns, you've seen the carnage on our streets, and you sought to advocate for ensuring that we had the appropriate levels of funding to do the really, really hard work in those really, really challenging parts of our community. And so the opportunity that we have to see 82nd Avenue into a new iteration of vitality and community is because of your contributions, because of your advocacy. 102nd Avenue, another street where we've seen challenging situations over the years, you have determined that that's where we needed a spot investment. 122nd Avenue, and first and second and third and fourth, and every city in the street, every street in the city is touched by your influence. I've often had the opportunity to speak with you about what's going on. You ask me, how are things going? You ask us how you can be helpful. And my hope is that you would just continue to be able to serve as that beacon of hope and encouragement for our staff, many of whom have stated that the reason that they got into urban planning, the reason that they got into safety engineering, the reason that they want to work for the city or for the state or for a county is because of the way that you have transformed the transportation space. So yes, it's transportation, but it's people, it's community, and it's our honor and our pleasure to be able to honor you today. Commissioner Ryan spoke to the bow tie, and we believe that one of the ways that we've been able to tie the impact of your influence on the city together with a bow is with the Blumenauer Bridge. That is a shining light. We have people in the city today from all over the country talking about Vision Zero, one of the projects that they're going to be able to see and walk, and if they choose to ride, will be that PED bike bridge that's there just off of 7th Avenue, creating a critical connection. That's what you do. You create critical connections, and for that, we are incredibly thankful, and we are forever in your debt. And so, on behalf of the 1,000 people that serve the city proudly as employees for the Portland Bureau of Transportation, as a representative of the city and the 600,000 plus people who live here, we want to offer you this street sign.
No.
Now, you can't put it anywhere you want to. But we do want to make sure that you know that the Blumenauer way is quite a Okay, all right.
I can just
I'll put it back in the.
wear it around my neck.
Yeah, you could with your bike pin. Yes, okay. And then we also have the resolution that the city council has crafted and shared. We will be handing this to you, but it is signed by our beloved Mayor Ted Wheeler. We thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I am going to read the document that Director Williams has in her hand. And then Earl, just to prep you, I'm going to give you the last word here today. Whereas Congressman Earl Blumenauer, having served his community for more than 50 years as a Portland City Councilor, Oregon State Representative, Portland Community College Board Member, Multnomah County Commissioner, and United States Representative, has dedicated his life as a public servant to helping build innovative, sustainable, and livable communities. And whereas Congressman Blumenauer has been a strong advocate for sustainable transportation and green infrastructure development, has helped secure funding for mass transit, including establishing the first modern streetcar system in the country, and has successfully fought for safety improvements throughout our transportation network as a visible champion of Vision Zero. And whereas the Congressman has been a lifelong champion of bicycle commuting and safe bicycle infrastructure, leading the development of Portland's first in the nation bike master plan that laid the groundwork for Portland to become the best bicycling city in the United States, culminating in the recent dedication of the Earl Blumenauer Bicycle and Pedestrian Bridge. And whereas Congressman Blumenauer's vision for transforming 82nd Avenue from an orphan highway to a vibrant and safe connector of community has served as a guiding North Star that is now yielding public investments that are transforming the entire corridor. And whereas Congressman Blumenauer has been a leading proponent of equitable infrastructure development and an instrumental partner in the effort to restore and revitalize Lower Albina through his leadership to secure funding for the Reconnecting Albina Planning Project, the Broadway Main Street Project, and the I-5 Rose Quarter Improvement Project. And whereas Congressman Blumenauer has long been a champion of environmental protection, including leading efforts to declare a national climate emergency, pass the Green New Deal, and promote conservation and recreation around Mount Hood and the Columbia River Gorge. And whereas Congressman Blumenauer has been a national leader for decades in the effort to reform our cannabis laws to be more equitable, creating economic opportunity and access to alternative health care rather than criminal punishment. And whereas Earl Blumenauer is now retiring from Congress after faithfully serving the constituents of Oregon's 3rd Congressional District with distinction for 28 years. And whereas in his next chapter with Portland State University, Congressman Blumenauer will continue working tirelessly to make Portland America's most livable city. Now, therefore, I, Ted Wheeler, Mayor of the City of Portland, Oregon, the City of Roses, do hereby acknowledge and celebrate Congressman Earl Blumenauer's unparalleled career of service to our community and express the eternal gratitude of the people of Portland. Thank you, Earl.
Well, thank you very much. Usually you have to be dead before you have moments like this. And fortunately, I'm still with you. And to Commissioner Gonzalez's point, I'm looking forward to working with all of you on what is next for our community. It was my great honor to serve on this council. It was one of the most formative periods for me. It was very rewarding in terms of the relationship with the citizens of Portland. And you know better than anybody the challenges and the joys of that connection. I have made clear that you've gone through the most difficult period of any members of the Portland City Council. I mean, I spent 10 years. We had our ups and downs and challenges, but nothing I face was similar, for example, for you, Mayor Wheeler, Dan, but you've all been in the midst of this, and I deeply appreciate your perseverance. We wouldn't be where we are today without your following through. There are all sorts of people that I hope in my next life that I'll be able to try and focus on who got us here. My colleagues on the City Council, Bud Clark, the most unsung hero in Portland's history, an amazing human being. Mayor Katz, Gretchen Kafori. I mean, the honor roll of people who preceded us is impressive. We've still got Mike Lindbergh kicking around. And then there were citizens who made the difference, the Bill Natos, Greg Baldwin, Tom Walsh, people who were truly giants and who were partners with us. And I'm honored to have had a chance to do some work with them. There are elements that I hope we're going to be able to focus on that have not been appreciated. I am proud to have been part of an effort that reallocated responsibilities between the city and the county and stabilized finance for a decade in an era of cooperation, which is always important. We manage the largest unsewered urbanized area in the United States that forced people of East Portland and Multnomah County to pay twice because of the failures of some county commissioners in the 50s and 60s. Those were challenging times, but they were exciting. And the city employees, the managers, the citizen volunteers were there with money, chalk, and marbles. And we're all the better for it. So I thank you for the recognition. I thank you for the partnership. And I thank you for the opportunity for us to think about how we, in a interesting new era, how we build on those past experiences to help Portland move forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, could we get a photo with you, Congressman?
I would be honored.
Great. We'll come over there. All right. Yeah, of course. Don't go away.
You want the sign?
Okay. Do you want your sign?
Oh. Oh, yeah, definitely hold the sign.
Sure. Doing?
Thank you, Earl. Thank you. Appreciate it very much. All right, good morning, everybody. This is the Wednesday, October 23rd, 2024 morning session of the Portland City Council. Keelan, good morning. Please call the roll.
Good morning. Maps,
Here.
Rubio, Ryan,
Here.
Gonzalez,
Here.
Wheeler.
Here. Now we'll hear from legal counsel on the rules of order and decorum. Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome to the Portland City Council. To testify before council in person or virtually, you must sign up in advance on the council agenda at www.portland.gov/council/agenda. Information on engaging with council can be found on the council clerk's webpage. Individuals may testify for 3 minutes unless the presiding officer states otherwise. Your microphone will be muted when your time is over. The presiding officer preserves order. Disruptive conduct, such as shouting, refusing to conclude your testimony when your time is up, or interrupting others' testimony or council deliberations, will not be allowed. If you cause a disruption, a warning will be given. Further disruption will result in ejection from the meeting. Anyone who fails to leave once ejected is subject to arrest for trespass. Additionally, council may take a short recess and reconvene virtually. Your testimony should address the matter being considered. When testifying, state your name for the record. Your address is not necessary. If you are a lobbyist, identify the organization you represent. Virtual testifiers should unmute themselves when the council clerk calls your name. Thank you.
All right, first up, communications, first individual. Well, actually, Keelan, I think these folks may want to all come up at the same time. Is that correct?
I actually have, based on what the clerk said, a couple of process questions. It sounds like from the last time you came twice, we could substitute people, but it sounds like we're going back to the way it was. We can't substitute anyone. Is that correct?
I asked him to ask the presiding officer if people who are not on the agenda could testify.
It's okay. We're just clarifying.
Are they here?
No, a couple of people are going to phone in. One person broke her ankle in 2 places, but Sally, for
Okay, well,
instance,
ordinarily the answer is no.
Sure.
But you guys come in regularly.
We try
You
to.
stay on point. You stay on time. So because of past excellent behavior, I will make this exception.
We believe in excellent behavior and
And
appreciate that you
have
came and
done
talked to us at Portland State for an hour.
And I enjoyed it thoroughly. So
Well, we apologize for the disruption. You might not remember that, but there was a person that kept disrupting. But I think
that
when
wasn't your fault.
when you're staff people and we figured out.
Yeah,
So
it wasn't
we're
your
fine.
fault. If Keelan, if you could read 890, 891, 892, 893, and 894, please.
Jennifer Young's one of our best, longest volunteers, and she was trying to phone in at 9:30, so she might have phoned in. If she doesn't, that's fine. The second process question, Ted, sorry.
Yep.
We originally booked, like we usually do, 15 minutes. I can just do 3 minutes if that works, if I'm the de facto designated hitter. But if I go over, is that okay, or just tell me?
Well,
Either way.
what I would do is, if how many people do you have to speak?
I'm designated here because we couldn't figure out the process.
So it's just
one.
you?
Yeah, in person.
Okay, I'll tell you what, since you have the entire communications platform, we'll give you 5 minutes.
That's fine. Thanks, Ted. So good morning.
Oh, no. Hang
Nope.
on a second. I need to read the
Yes,
titles.
she has to read it.
Just read all.
Eight.
Sorry.
890, request of Blue Church to address council regarding Portland Gray Panthers. 891, request of Jamal Dar to address council regarding Portland Gray Panthers. 892, request of Cale Turn to address council regarding Portland Gray Panthers. 893, request of Chelsea Kane to address council regarding Portland Gray Panthers. Request of Jeremy Smith to address council regarding Portland Gray Panthers. We do have someone online. Let me see.
Jennifer, maybe. I was going to give you the list. It could be Seattle.
Who is online for these items?
Jennifer Young.
Okay.
So Jennifer can go first if that's all right.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll let Jennifer speak for 3. We'll give you 5, and I want to be very clear. This is a rare exception.
No,
It
it's
will not
fine.
happen
Exceptions
again.
are fine.
Great.
Even not
You
having
bet.
exceptions
Thank
is
you.
okay.
Go for it.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
All right. This is regarding the fastest growing demographic in public housing. Housing that is owned outright by the government and housing paid for subsidies from public funds. And that demographic is senior women. And specifically about safety. All new buildings need to have security. Security cameras installed as part of the build. This includes cameras in all stairwells, hallways, elevators, entrances, outside the building, monitoring mailboxes and parking lots. And I'm speaking to this because it's been an issue. There needs to be a contract with the company for maintenance on the camera system and the nonprofits operating the system. Also, they need to agree that the cameras are there for tenant safety. Where I live now, when a crime occurs and you have a timestamp calling the property manager to check for footage, you don't get a call back. And there is nothing in writing that says the property owner must call the police. Cameras become just a tool for the corporation providing property management. Buildings in the Portland, Oregon area are being built and staffed for a population that hasn't existed since the 1970s. Even transitional housing is independent living, and independent is in quotes, which means properties aren't staffed at all. And this is huge. People are being scraped off the street, placed into housing where their pre-existing needs exceed the level of staffing of independent living. Tenants with mental health issues, among many other problems, make threats and act on those threats. None of these public housing buildings or publicly funded privately owned housing are required to have a violence policy. As it has happened in my building, all the property managers have to do is have a staffing turnover, and all the problems and problem tenants are returned to baseline. There's no history, no consequences for violent and violence-speaking tenants. There needs to be a zero tolerance policy to threats of violence and of violence itself. Without a mandate to develop anti-violence policies, housing for those at the lower end of incomes and the upper ages, demographically speaking, and specifically senior women, public housing continues to be threatening. There is no overarching agency that monitors private nonprofits that are in the housing business.
You have 30 more seconds.
Home Forward is only interested in the buildings it owns outright. Fair housing is just a concept. Even age is not listed as a protected class when it comes to fair housing complaints. It isn't safe here in Portland, Oregon for older women. And I'll stop there.
Thank you. We appreciate your perspective. Oh, Commissioner Maps, I'm sorry.
Lou,
I
are
didn't see
you
your
going
hand
to
up.
talk about the same topic, or are you going to move on to a different topic?
A bit of both.
Let me just intervene here. I want to thank the citizen who just testified about the importance of
Jennifer.
Jennifer, thanks, Jennifer. Jennifer, thanks for being here today, and thanks for your testimony. Based on everything I have learned during my time on council, and frankly, during my time before I was on council, Jennifer is pointing to a salient and important issue, which I actually do hope that at this point, probably future councils lean into. I think this is something both the city should look into and the county should look into. I think we all know people on the lower end of the income scale and folks who are up there in age a little bit, who are living in subsidized units, who frankly do not feel safe. I think a lot of us have also heard the challenges that many operators of these facilities are having securing insurance because of unsafe practices in this building. Humanity and just good public service requires us to do better, and I hope that that is something that elected leaders lean into in the coming year. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Maps. Commissioner Ryan.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Jennifer as well. In my time as housing commissioner, Jennifer, I heard this frequently from those receiving the awards and from tenants, and I would mention it frequently to the industry, and it was not met with a lot of urgency. And so your voice and your points that you're making are so important to be discussed and to then take action. So thank you. Keep being a strong advocate for the truth, because we all know that we need more safe housing for our elders to age in place. I really appreciate you. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Ryan.
Go. Okay. I'm Lou with Portland Gray Panthers. Edie, Sally, Jennifer, and Cheryl are four of the women who are on our, we even made up new buttons when Cheryl started volunteering, Safe Housing Action Project. My experience with tenant rights and housing was I was a VISTA volunteer in Macon, Georgia with SELC, Dr. King's nonprofit, and that was my title from the federal government with action, tenant rights and housing. At Portland State, when the administration was unresponsive to student tenants, we organized a rent strike. Front page of the Oregonian, we did a secondary boycott. Blitz Beer at the time was on the board of directors. So tenant rights and housing, especially the role of women in housing for elders and others, is really vital. And one of the two things we've spent most time, energy, and resources on, along with the Walmart boycott to end gun violence, which equally affects vulnerable targets, elders, school children, and something we've asked city council candidates, if people have asked about gun violence, and this may be true for all of you who are running again, very much about gun violence, but we think that's a vital issue as well. Because we had this process question of who could talk today, I'm de facto designated hitter, like I mentioned, and I brought 3 or 4 different angles of things to try to emphasize. So, and my voice is a little off today. So I'll try to hit some of these. Portland Gray Panthers formed as a 501c3 a few years ago. We are both a C3, and we added a political action committee, which is approved by Secretary of State. This year, we've had 80 plus of the city council candidates come and talk to us at Portland State. We appreciate that Congressman Blumenauer is going to move to Portland State. And we hope to have Justin, who just talked to me, have Earl come and talk on what his experience is. I should say that of the federal government elected officials, Earl is the person that we were able to talk to in person when he was in Portland with 6 of us on gun reform, just him and us for a half hour. So we appreciate that as well. When I first got to PSU, I had a work study job for the Planning Bureau, City of Portland. I used to be a worker for the city. And it was developing, not quite 100 years ago, the first bicycle map. There were 4 of us who were work study students who rode our bikes around Portland to cover the quadrants of the city in terms of where cattywampus storm drains were, what might be good routes that were not like Hawthorne, real traffic heavy issues. I also worked at EPA in North Carolina, the Research Triangle Park. The department I was in is Mobile Sources Emissions Research Branch, which ties into environmental protection and ties into de-emphasizing car culture and carbon usage and overuse. So for things I want to try to cover, I appreciate Ted giving a couple minutes extra. I should probably talk about the election. And this is what most of our time and energy has gone into. We appreciate that Carmen's talking to the Americans for Reproductive Rally this morning. Our PAC has endorsed Carmen for mayor and thinks she's the most qualified, the most experienced, and the most competent candidate. Other people that we've endorsed for District 4, PAC Panthers has endorsed Lisa Freeman, Sarah Silkey, and Mitch Green. Lisa worked for the U.S. Aid Agency for International Development for 10 years in a dozen global South countries. She comes with the most conflict resolution experience of any of the 80-plus candidates. Portland's been called a conflict zone for too long. Sarah Silkey and Mitch Green personify values for community safety, housing, and a green economy, not simplistic right-wing ideological attacks against workers who've been priced out of housing, Renee. In District 3, Panthers see both Angelita Murillo and Tiffany Lane as leaders badly needed now for a better, inclusive Portland. Chris Flannery in D3 brings a vast worker and labor advocacy experience for everyday people. In District 1, Panthers believe Candace Avalos with Verde and Steph Routh at Portland State are good leaders that will be excellent members of the city council. We also support Cale Turn, who came with us last time. He's works for Apano. He's on a school board district in Reynolds. And we'd like to see Cale get on council as well. Who else should I mention? Michelle DePass, Alana Pertol-Guinea, Jennifer Park, Debbie Kitchen, Marty Glickman, Nat West, with 30 seconds left, are also people that we've endorsed, along with, for Congress, Maxine Dexter and Janelle Bynum. We also brought this thing in. I appreciate the 19 seconds that are left, but we support the current movement, I think ASME and SEIU are working on it, called Don't Rank Renee. And we think Don't Rank Renee is really very vital to electing a competent, experienced leader to city council, not someone who's on the ideological right wing. Thank you.
All right, your time is up. Thank you. And that's
Always a joy, Lou. Always a joy.
and that completes communications. Consent agenda. Any items been pulled off the consent agenda?
No.
Please call the roll.
Maps,
Aye.
Ryan,
Aye.
Gonzalez,
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. The consent agenda is adopted. First time certain item, please, number 895.
Government Transition Advisory Committee report to council.
As you know, colleagues, over the excuse me. As you know, colleagues, over the last year, the Portland Police Bureau has been partnering.
Are
I'm
we
on
in
the
the right
wrong
place?
one. No, of course I'm not. Hang on for a sec. There it is. I went to 05 instead of 95. All right, now we've got it right. Colleagues, we're joined today by the current co-chairs of the Government Transition Advisory Committee, otherwise known affectionately as GTAC. Destiny Magana Pablo and Bill Kinsey. They're here to share their updates on their work. Now, just as a reminder, we appointed this advisory body back in March of 2023 to advise the city on implementation of the voter-approved charter amendments. GTAC will also advise the new council as well because their service lasts through March of 2025. This item is a presentation with plenty of room for questions and discussion. There is no council action requested. With that, I'll turn it over to Destiny and Bill. Thank you for being here and thank you for your patience this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you. Clerk, could you please pull up the presentation? Thank you so much. Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. Again, my name is Destiny Magana Pablo, and I currently serve as co-chair of the Government Transition Advisory Committee with Bill Kinsey here to my left. The GTAC is made up of civic leader volunteers with diverse experiences and expertise, and we will be serving until March of 2025. So with the new council, a new mayor, and new government in effect, our task is to ensure the effective and efficient implementation of charter reform, to engage the public, and to provide strategic, research-informed advice to the city. We are
passionately united in involving as many Portlanders in the successful transition of government. And there has been two constants in our work. The first being community education and engagement, and that includes our voter education efforts. The second is to provide advice to city leaders in this transition. I'll briefly touch on those, but then Bill here will share our work over the past year to develop the recommendations to city leaders of this new government. We have a short presentation, less than 10 minutes, that provides an update of our work, and then we look forward to having a discussion with you. We are joined here by a handful of our amazing committee members who are also available for discussion for your questions. We do ask that you hold your questions and comments until the end of the presentation. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the GTAC serves as the main public engagement body for this transition. Since our appointment, we have reached thousands of Portlanders. We have provided 120 community presentations on the new form of government and this new election system. That includes more than 50 neighborhood associations. And then also, more than 40% of our community presentations have been done in partnership with communities historically left out of City Hall decision-making. Next slide, please. Thank you. The GTAC serves as the main public engagement body for the transition. Since our appointment, we have, oh, that's the same one. I didn't change next slides. Okay. Throughout the transition, us as GTAC, we have provided both informal and formal advice to these city leaders currently in the transition. Our informal advice has been given in public meetings, but without a formal vote from GTAC. Areas of advice have included things such as the transition work plan, the transition community engagement plan, the Code 3.02 on council organization and procedures, the voter education plan, the transition budget, and also how to evaluate the transition project and its effectiveness. Our formal advice we have given as GTAC, we voted on 4 items that we deemed under our purview, such as council staffing, district offices, community engagement, and also the onboarding of new city leaders. At the same time as we were advising current city leaders and educating and engaging Portlanders, we were developing recommendations for city leaders of the new government. Next slide, and I will pass it over to Bill to provide the overview of the recommendations we voted for last month.
Thank you, Destiny, and thank you, Mayor, Commissioners, City Attorney, City Administrator, Clerk, and staff. Thank you. The GTAC reviewed, with regard to our recommendations, 20 similarly sized cities with governments comparable to that envisioned by charter reform. And we identified the biggest governance opportunities for Portland and its residents, and how residents can best engage with the new government. Our recommendations fall into 4 categories, which one can see on the slide. I'll highlight some of the recommendations, but due to time limits, cannot review all of them. Our full report, however, is quite readable, and it provides a constructive list for the soon-to-be elected officials. We encourage folks to read the document linked on this slide, and also, if one asks, we can email everyone a copy. Let's go over those 4 recommendations. So next slide, please. The first category of recommendations is engaging with city government. And these are some of the highlights. 1 is establish standardized engagement practices and centralized engagement with the city administrator's office. Another is ensure elected offices have a centralized tracking system for community questions and requests. A third, conduct robust community engagement to determine what programming Portlanders want in their new council districts. Also, We recommend newly elected officials explicitly hear and address public input during decision-making. With regard to the tracking system or centralized tracking system, we appreciate the mayor's office in the use of, or piloting the use of Zendesk. Zendesk is a customer service platform designed to better track and respond to community requests and questions. Next slide. The second category of our recommendations is setting up council in the new government. And this includes items that, such as the following: ensure sufficient staffing for individual councilors, the council president, and shared council operations. Another, provide opportunities for council members to know each other and identify as a team and create council priorities. Also, we recommend develop a citywide strategic plan to set the city's priorities and guide budget development. We are cognizant that from prior attendance at a budget committee hearing, that funds are limited, and I think we all agree that the current funding for city council is limited, and it's difficult to find those funds, but we're happy to discuss this later. We support additional funds for staffing and supporting the new city council. Next slide, please. The third category of recommendations is setting up council committees in the new government. And here we recommend establishing a relatively strong committee system that serves as the preferred method for public input. And we recommend setting the number and composition of the committees to distribute the workload across districts so that each district has comparable influence. Also, we recommend aligning committee topics to strategize or to, recommend it, or organize the committee topics according to legislative priorities. As the last 2 points express, our recommendations on committees place importance on: one, ensuring topics reflect legislative priorities, and two, enabling each district to exercise comparable influence. Next slide. The fourth and final category of recommendations is participating in the city's new budget process. And this includes the following items: improve engagement by sharing the budget or starting the budget process earlier, and diversifying methods for input, such as hosting district budget town halls. We also recommend improving communications through new and better feedback processes with the community and developing community relationships. Also, we recommend centralizing budget engagement in the city administrator's office along service areas instead of individual bureaus. Another high point is we recommend implementing the recommendations in the budget process transition report to the city that was submitted by Equilibrium Collaborative. As our recommendations in this category indicate, the government transition provides a unique opportunity to enhance community engagement in the budget process. That concludes a summary of our recommendations, so I'll pass the mic back to Destiny to close us out.
Thank you, Bill. Next slide, please. Awesome. Okay, so what's next? So for the 5 months that are remaining in our terms, we will continue to educate and engage Portlanders and advise city leaders. The focus of our community presentations will naturally shift as we focus on the new form of government and how to access your elected officials and to hear from Portlanders about their experience from this November election since it's so new. As discussed, we have many recommendations for future city leaders. So over the next couple of months, we do want to identify what we think are priority issues for them to consider early in their terms as they're making these decisions and offer a roadmap on how to sequence the recommendations implementations. Mostly because we keep getting the question, what can we put off until later? So we acknowledge the constrained budget year and would like to work with you. We have time with the new electeds at an onboarding session to share our work, which we are grateful and excited for. When the new council president is identified, we will brief them on our work and plan to deliver our final report to the new council. Our final report should be released in March of 2025, which is our last month of service. Next slide, please. Thank you. And then the GTAC would like to thank many people who have contributed to our efforts and the city's efforts, in particular to you, the elected leaders, who took the time to meet with us and engage in this discussion. Also, the transition team leadership and program staff who have provided us with a lot of information, guidance, and important perspectives to our hard questions. Bureau leadership and staff who have made themselves available to answer these questions and also offer suggestions to our discussions. And of course, to the GTAC's transformational staff team and superb individuals such as Julia Meyer, June Reyes, Guillermo Rebolledo Salgado, Katie Gavarez, and Ruby Dovey. Finally, the GTAC is honored by and thanks the Portlanders who came to our meetings, who attended a community presentation, a listening session, or provided very impressful, useful, innovative input in many number of ways. We hope our work reflects and advances their interest, your interests, and your concerns in shaping and forming this transition into Portland's future. We appreciate the council's time this morning, and we welcome any guidance you may have for us in our remaining time. And with that, I will pass it back to the mayor.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that presentation. Colleagues, any questions?
I think there might, if there's public, I'm sure I do have a couple of questions.
Oh,
but if
do we?
there's
Yeah, that's a
public
good,
testimony,
that's a
I
good
would hear
point,
that.
Commissioner. Do we have public testimony?
We have one person.
Why don't we
signed
hear
up.
from that individual in case they need to
Please.
skedaddle? You can, you go ahead and stay here.
Okay.
Faria Abdesalan?
Are they online?
I don't believe so. Let me check.
All right, great. Commissioner Maps?
Actually, Commissioner Gonzalez has his hand up. Go ahead.
Oh,
Commissioner Gonzalez?
yeah, I'll go back to some historical pieces of advice, going back to your February letter on staffing for council. And I'm just reviewing the table. It would be very helpful to us if there was a way to note in which cities council are full-time versus part-time. And the only reason I thought of that question is one of my staffers was in another city where they had part-time, and then sometimes that impacts the staffing model that you might use to support council members. So I just would, but that would be helpful to know in kind of discerning what you're presenting here. Second, I just wanted to make sure I'm following. There's a column called centralized staff FTE. Is that inclusive of the designated district staff person or exclusive of that? So you list 10 for Portland under the new form of government. I just wanted to make sure I was tracking how you're breaking that down.
Thank you for the question, Commissioner. Let me talk.
I think
with
Terry's
Dustin.
coming up, so maybe.
Oh, yeah, yes. Terry is one of the principal authors of our recommendations. So,
Okay,
Terry?
run that question by me again.
Maybe I'll start with the second question,
Okay.
or the second part of it. So in your table 1, to your February letter, there's centralized staff FTE, and in the new form you list 10. Just so I'm tracing this, is that 10 include the district level staffing that is shared? Mike's giving me a nod, so I just want to make sure I'm.
The answer to
okay.
that is yes.
Okay, so in trying to figure out Okay, that's helpful because I think sometimes when I think about the FTEs per office, individual counselor, I'm thinking is that district person is really 0.25. So actually it's really 1.25 per, and I'm not saying that's enough. I just want to be crystal clear, but I think we have to wait and see how this actually operationalizes, if they're really more centrally oriented or are they in fact being shared. I'm sorry, it's not 1.25, it's 1.33, right? It's shared among three. And yeah, I think we have to kind of wait and see how that actually plays itself out. So back to the first question though, in understanding your table, is trying to understand which of these cities the council members are full-time versus part-time.
I think we have that information and we can get that to you.
That would be great. And I think there's broad recognition that we're lightly staffed here, and it's just really trying to calibrate with some of those variables and then comparing it to the mayor and city and council president staffing, just so we could, the next budget cycle, we're going to have to make some tough choices among a number of things that need funding. So I'll just leave it at that. That would be great for that table. And then getting into your recommendations on community engagement on the budgeting process. So I'm reading your summary here, and I just want to make sure I really understand what you think this looks like at an operational level. So you're recommending that this largely be under the city administrator. I kind of get that, but what does that actually mean on the ground relative to what occurs now?
I can try and talk to that as well. I think, let me just top level here. This is a great opportunity to change things for the better in terms of engagement. And the fundamentals there are do it earlier, do it deeper, make it more meaningful, and communicate better. And those are sort of the principles that we have. Now, on the ground, I think you started it yesterday when you talked about creating a trial budget for February timeframe. That's something that other cities do. It puts it squarely in front of the public early enough to make comments and understand it and engage while decisions are still possible to be made, so that it's not in May, June, where you're scrambling to get it done and nitpicking line items. So it's that sort of thing. You have now districts where counselors can hold budget town halls in the district early on to get priorities early on from their communities in a completely different way. So it's a great time to get past, like, this is the way we've always done it, into a new way we're always going to do it, that is more infused with community engagement, top to bottom, left to right, completely every element through the system.
Got it. Well, and I'll give you, one of the critiques of the existing process that maybe cuts against part of what you're saying, not all of what you're saying, is that we engage with the BACs early and then they kind of disappear, and there's other issues there. Are we adequately staffing that? Are we really fully committed to them? We create this expectation that they're going to have real, they become functional experts on a particular bureau's budget. We listen to them early on, and then they kind of turn into pumpkins when the real decisions are made. That is a critique of the status quo, and they are really on the front. They're relatively early in the budget creation process in a way. So I would just submit that as we're trying to reconcile, different perspectives on when's the right time to engage with advisory committees or the budget as a whole, that you're aware of that critique of the status quo that almost cuts to the opposite. I'm not really sure where I land on this. I just wanted you to, I don't know if you have thoughts on that, but.
Yeah, we sort of took a look briefly at the Budget Advisory Committee structure, and it doesn't really work for anybody. And it's partly because of the way it is phased into the process and the fact that they sort of come on and then disappear, when perhaps a more robust year-round viewpoint of a service area would give them more insight and more ability to respond meaningfully. So we understand that that's something that needs work. I think there's some of us on GTAC that would like to take a look at advisory committees, budget in specifically, but also I know you were wrestling with advisory committees to service areas generally. I think that's part of we're interested in it, and if we have time to look into it, I hope we do.
Looks like one of your colleagues is going to supplement here.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
Juanita?
yes, thank you. My name is Juanita Santana. What I would like to just add to the question, answer to your question regarding community engagement. One of the specific recommendations is that the city needs to develop a comprehensive community engagement plan that includes all of the aspects of community engagement, including the budget development process. And that needs to be done upfront before, as soon as possible. So when we're talking about that, the reason to be able to do it in the city administrator's level is because we need to have the authority, and because that creates a lot of changes throughout the structure, the way it's functioning right now. And I think that the authority needs to be there to ensure that, because when we're talking about community involvement, you're talking about a cultural change within the system, all of the functions of the city, because right now it's not functioning. And so therefore, if it's not supported from the leadership level, and there's not supported by the city council developing legislation and policies that are in writing and they're there, that change will never take place. So I just want to emphasize that. And so it's difficult to say how specifically each committee will be advisory for the budget will be implemented. But I think that is a process that needs to be very thought through and again, by the leadership to do it.
So a couple of thoughts on that. I think that's a very helpful observations. Commissioner Ryan can probably speak to it most directly. I mean, there has been a fair amount of inventorizing of existing advisory boards undertaken. We have a decent view of that, probably a better view than the state has of all their advisory boards, which took multiple years for them to, I'm not sure they're even confident in the count. One of the dynamics is some of these advisory boards get created years ago, and once they're created, they're really hard to get rid of, and yet there's still some expectation, even if leadership thinks they've outlived their benefit, it's just hard mechanically to get rid of them. And so one of the areas of sensitivity I have is that if something's really going to be an administrative or executive advisory board, it should not be done in code going forward, because you got to give the CAO and the mayor flexibility to bring those in and out. But the legislative side of this is really fascinating. They separately have their own ability to create advisory boards under the new charter, and you have a committee structure. And so just staying on the narrow question of budgeting, which is super important,
Yes.
How do you all view the committees driving or not driving community engagement on the budget? So specifically the legislative committees, what do you envision under the new charter engaging and informing the public in the area of their expertise?
Yeah, well, we do have
Juanita?
already I'm sorry.
I have comments. Is it okay if I read
Go
these
ahead.
comments? Thank you, Juanita. So one of the comments that were shared from our committee member, Zach, was that these advisory committees are historically poorly promoted by the city. So that was one of the comments that came forward. And also that these advisory committees aren't truly representative of the public and are not the groups affected by policies set forward. And so one of the things that we acknowledged in our meetings and with the people when we were connecting with Portlanders and the city staff is there's a lot of attention on Portland right now in the city government, a lot of great connections that we have made, again, 120 presentations with so many community partners. now we have districts, now we have 3 counselors coming from neighborhoods all across of our Portland. So how do we engage actual Portlanders outside of a committee? How do we promote the city taking that first step action of holding themselves accountable to a trial budget, putting it forward to the public, and then making space and, accessibility to place comments on street safety, on housing safety, on, parks and bikes. Like those are the experiences that are reflective of the budget. And so thank you, Juanita. I apologize. I just wanted to
that's
put those
okay.
comments in.
Thank you. No, that's perfectly. But in answering your question, I think that the creation of these districts create the way and the facilitates the process to engage each of those districts through their representatives. Because now you have 3 people in each district that can work with those communities in developing city to towns or meetings with the communities to talk about the budget from the very beginning to engage them. So you already have the structure by the new changes that are going to be implemented. And so again, then the details of how do we use those city districts and the 3 representatives of each district, how do we facilitate that process is going to be critical to really engage those communities. But I would like to say that in the research that we did, we look into different cities and how do they do their community engagement. And one of the places that we found that is the best place, that has one of the most progressive way to implement community engagement is St. Paul, Minnesota. And we contacted them and we talked to them about how do they implement it. And I want to thank, there's a committee within the city right now working on that piece. And a lot of the recommendations that are coming are very similar to what the work that is being done in St. Paul, Minnesota. So there's a lot of potential, and there's a lot of information that the committee has gathered and a lot of research completed that I think needs to be, we're hoping that it will be listened to, and if there's questions or need clarification, that they will contact our co-chairs and we will work with them, yeah.
And I would just submit on the narrower question of budget, which is a huge question, but the election process is in fact a manifestation of budgeting priorities, right? I mean, the folks that you elect to sit on council are the clearest articulation of the populace's preferences on values and investment decisions. Now, it's kind of once in time, and so you're trying to figure out a dynamic way to continuously engage, but I just leave that on the table. And if I were to summarize what you've kind of said, we've got district level ability to engage with the community on budget. And we run through truly the districts, geographically oriented. I continue to kind of wonder about the more substantive engagement potentially at the committee level. Honestly, that's just for the next council to figure out. I mean, I did, but to the extent you all give some thought to that, what's the best way to, go ahead, sir.
I'll give a shot at that one. I mean, by state law, your budget committee has to be the entire council. But now that you're going to have what we hope will be other committees focused on legislative priorities that you've set through a strategic plan, and you currently have that, right? It's economic recovery, housing, homelessness. You have those sort of set. You have budget subcommittees that can take a look at the budget with the mindset of those priorities. There's a subcommittee that will be representative of each district with balanced workloads and balanced representation, and we'll be able to dive deeper and think deeper and access community deeper. I think that's the dream, and I think we're going to set it up that way. I mean, now is the time to set it up so that it works and it functions with community engagement embedded in it from the very beginning, both in process, in legislative structure, and in a timeline that makes sense for the budget. That's where the hope is.
If I could add on to that also, there's going to be a very principal and primary role for the mayor to be a part of this and charge that work in this new charter reform. So again, as we're talking about the ideals, we would hope that as a city, we can come to an agreement that the mayor should have a real strong collaboration and desire for innovative work to establish community engagement, to work with counselors, understanding that district representation. And also, we have city administrators. We need to really work on that communication streamline, and that's something that's embedded throughout all of our recommendations. And so we hope the mayor, as they're working to propose these trial budgets with experts like city administrators, are active in that counselor engagement, not to oversee the day-to-day services, but to really come together and say, what are we budgeting as how we improve our city? What can we put off, as we've been asked, what can we put off to later? And what is our commitments now? And so I do want to highlight that.
Well, and your mind was going where mine was going next. So your recommendation on community engagement really sits at the city administrator level, and that's important in terms of professionalizing and having a level of consistency across service areas in that process. And again, managing advisory boards, Commissioner Ryan knows more about it than I do. I'm just somewhat privy to some of the analysis there, and we are incredibly inconsistent right now because a lot of these advisory boards have outlived their benefits. Different folks in the organization value some more than others for really legitimate reasons and other reasons. But the core democratic component of an elected's responsibility to engage with the people that elected them, the mayor has to have a major responsibility. That is the core sort of, that's how you stay elected, frankly. And so I thank you for calling that out. I think there's a shared sort of professionalism component of it, and then ongoing engagement at the elected level, including in the executive branch, is essential. So I'll pause there and turn over to my colleagues. Did you have something else to add?
Yes, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the fact that you have already got in your budget a position for community engagement. And the recommendation of GTAC is to hire that person sooner rather than later. Because what is presently happening is that you're all doing admirable work trying to reach the community in many ways, but as we've already noted, it's very, very siloed. And, as a community member, I sometimes get calls in 1 week from 3 different community outreach people who are from the city who don't know that the others are calling me. So I say hire that person and look for somebody who's done this work already at a major city, because he or she is going to build the formula for how the future outreach is done equally and determinedly across all departments based on the strategy that is set for the next year. And then you'll have some consistency. And no community group should come and stay forever. No advisory committee comes. They come, they do the work, they leave. And this professional will help you do that. So I think that the position is slated for filling at the beginning of the year, but our recommendation is that, if we can do it sooner, if you can find the money to do it now, it would be great, because then that would give the transition team an opportunity to start building that, because we believe that that is key to the success. And then if you can imagine 12 city councillors all starting new, not knowing which end is up, all beginning to start to fight for resources to try and reach their community. You need a community person here to say, this is how we're going to do that. This is the fair way to do town halls in each district. And this is how much money it's going to cost. So we would recommend that you do that sooner rather than later. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I'm going to keep us moving just a little bit here because we're way over the time already on this, and it's a fabulous discussion, and it's going to continue. I'm not going to ask any questions. I'm going to put a couple of comments out there. How's that? And then we can stew over them And thank you for your recommendation with regard to.
Thank you. And evidently, for the record, my name is Jane DiMarco.
Oh, thank you, Jane. Appreciate it. And there's other members of GTAC in the audience. Can you raise your hands just so we can say hi and thank you?
Thank you.
All for your service. We really appreciate it. You've done outstanding work. These are open-ended questions because I don't have good answers for them. Number one, because we are now moving to a district commissioner form of government, you will have just what you just described. You will have more competition at the district level than we currently have. We don't have competition at the district level because we're all citywide elected officers. That's thought number one. And you'll need to account for that potential competition between districts. Number two, I have always found it fascinating that this council, to my mind, has been very clear and unified in terms of our budget priorities. And as far as I can tell, based on polling data that's been published and just the feedback we constantly get from the community, our priorities have been the right priorities. I feel like we are really in tune with the priorities of the community. However, periodically as we're budgeting, majority rule isn't necessarily what people want. And when we talk about what do constituents want, I guess the question I'm asking you that I don't really want an answer to today is, what do you mean? Are you talking about what a majority of people want, or what a small group of people are extremely passionate about and feel very strongly about? And I'll give you a great example. We had in this year's budget a program that did not make the first cut because it wasn't related to public safety, homelessness, livability, or economic recovery. But it had a lot to do with health and community engagement. I won't mention the program, but a lot to do with health and community engagement and athleticism and self-defense for women in particular, but not exclusively. And we had, gosh, you guys, how much, like hundreds of people? I mean, we had a lot of people come in over the course of the entire budget process and say, look, I realize it's not related to these top priorities, but it's really, really important to those of us who participate in this program. Please save it. And we did. So majority rule isn't always necessarily the only way to look at this. Also, long-term versus short-term, and this is one I'm still wrestling with. Is the job of a city commissioner and a mayor to represent the interests of the constituents as the constituents identify them today? Or is it to hold the line and think long-term and have a longer-term vision for the city? And the reason this is a really interesting question to me is because our city's culture went through a complete disconnect, if you will, in 2019, 2020, 2021. And if you look at what people were coming in by the hundreds and telling us were important to them at that moment, today a lot of them would come in and say, oh, I didn't mean that. I didn't say that. That's not what I said. But they did. And so the question I have is it, as you think about the budget, are you thinking about a long-term vision for the city? Or are you thinking about the passion of the moment that's really important to people today? And again, I don't have a clear answer. I know where I would end on that. Today, I won't tell you. I'll save that for the autobiography someday. But my opinion on that has shifted, I will tell you, based on my own experience leading this council. So those are just things I want you to be aware of as you go forth and continue to do great work. Commissioner Ryan.
Oh, yes. It's great to see all of you, and thank you so much for your work. It's always refreshing to meet with you. And I heard what the mayor said. I'll try to get really succinct. It's easy to think out loud with you in these forums. And of course, I want to do that now. Your staffing recommendations are, I believe you. And I also want to keep hearing about your research and what that really means. I thought the questions about part-time, full-time were good. I think it's the shared model where the secret sauce is. We're going to have 3 people in each district. I mean, all the 5 of us, I think, know how to think out loud together. We collaborate together. We don't always agree with each other. That would be odd. And so I think there will be some of that, but there also could be some more division amongst the thought players, because we kind of have two Democratic parties within the city. I think we all know that. And so there's even articles that are suggesting that. So it's like there's going to be some rub. So it'll be about us being public servants and working with one another to have an ear for what we're really hearing on the ground, not the paid bodies that exist in the ever-growing C4 political network, but the actual people that you meet when you go visit them in their homes and their apartments. So where am I going with this question? What is your thoughts on that shared model and how we pull that off? I think shared legislation staffing is probably going to be easier to pull off, my gut says, than shared constituent relations at times. But I just want to know your wisdom on that. As we try to manage that, each district will try to manage that so that it's comprehensive and it's fair.
A quick comment on that.
Do you have any, boundaries for us, any bumpers, if you will, to help give us some guidance as we roll this in out?
I mean, the model of legislation is going to be
And
different.
I completely failed on asking a direct question, not thinking out loud. Sorry. Mayor.
The model of legislation is going to be different in a 12-member council. And so things that you're going to have to worry about in your shared staffing is confidentiality between different legislators who might have different legislative opinions and programs. You're also going to have to worry about shared district staffing between 3 counselors who might have different district priorities. And who does that person report to? Who is the boss of that shared staffer is tough on that staffer.
Yeah.
So these concerns are real, and it's going to be especially real if they're understaffed. So we are thinking about those, and those show up in some of our research, but I'm just going to say it out loud.
It's the North Star on this, that it would have been smart to have 2 staffers, one focused on legislative policy and one on constituency relations.
My personal opinion, we didn't sort of come to any conclusion on this, is you need 3. You need a legislative staffer, constituent staffer, and somebody to keep the office running and do your scheduling and get you to places on time.
That's fair. You said 3. I'm trying to get back to reality. So
I hear you.
I just want to step in.
At least
My
try to
name's
get to 2, right?
Amy Randall for the record. And like all of our recommendations, the kind of broad theme here is that this is an extraordinary moment of reformation in the city that requires extraordinary leadership, and figuring out how to staff those 3 people, how to program their time is going to be an extraordinary moment of leadership. And we are hopeful that the new council steps up to that moment and says, we need to be more thoughtful than we would usually be with staffing. We need to be more thoughtful about how our work is actually playing out. And something that we've found from other government transitions is that how the leadership behaves in public really, really matters for the success of the transition. Like not going at each other in the press, not doing things that kind of seem politically convenient in the moment, but taking a really long-term view and stepping up to really make the transition something that is presented in a unified way to the public. The way that the leadership behaves in these situations really, really matters, and the way that's going to play out with the individual staff.
I appreciate that. And I think it's always important to remind ourselves this isn't a Salem model. It's not a Washington, D.C. model.
This isn't business as usual. It's not usual for cities to change the way they staff their entire council.
That's true, but that wasn't my point. My point is this is nonpartisan. When you go around the city and you talk to Portlanders, it's really hard to know what their ideology is because they're complaining about the same things, which is why we've been able to come up with the priorities that Portlanders want.
Yeah.
And it's usually the special interests that pull us into those more partisan ideology debates. But if you listen to what Portlanders want, it's like, when I call 911, could someone pick up the phone?
Yeah, this is the same team situation.
Yeah. When police show up, could they show up on time, and can they be? Can their customer service be better? And customer service is what I hear over and over again. So when we're talking about constituent relations, we're actually talking about a city culture initiative that we have to find our vibe again about being excited about being customer service and really getting back to people and listening to them and remembering that these core issues is what Portlanders want us to focus on, because their big beef is that it's more expensive to live here and geez, my services have gone down. That's a bad equation for anyone trying to sell something. So it's why Portland isn't being sold as well to some of our voters today. And I think you're getting at that with with constituent relations. And so I just appreciate that you've been solid on that. On the legislative side, I think that's where we're different also than when you're in Salem or in Washington. And so and I think Salem has a real challenge with passing legislation but not implementing much. And as somebody that maybe focuses more time on implementation and operations than most, I hope that this new form of government allows the elected bodies to focus on updates on how implementation is going. So what is your thought about what that looks like in the committee structure and in the council meetings? So that we just don't pass something, then 2 years later we find out, oh, nothing's really happened. And that goes on, as we know.
I think the quick answer to that is that, your legislative body is now going to have the ability to do oversight work. Hold a committee hearing, bring in the administrators, bring in the program people, ask them the questions. Are you on budget?
Yes.
Are your metrics being met? Do you have the right metrics?
Do we have metrics?
So,
Yeah.
That's what your committees are going to be for.
That's good. I think that's my point. And Julie Myers out there, she's heard me say this for almost 20 years. We're policy rich and practice poor. And I still believe that. And so we have to get back to improving our practices. And I think this gives us a chance, but you can help us noodle that with how we not only build the staffing, but what those job descriptions say. Like, take time to really look at what the job descriptions say. Because if we do the status quo job descriptions based on other models in the political sector, I worry that we're not going to be able to hire the right people that have that heart for service. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It needs to be a priority. It needs to be
Okay.
an absolute priority. I've been on the campaign trail for the last 2 months in addition to this work of GTAC. And if there's one thing I've heard from every Portlander, it's that they're really pissed off at the city and they really feel deeply that it's not working well. So the entire leadership needs to be oriented towards how do we change the perception of government, and particularly in a moment of transition based on all of our research with GTAC and everything we know about government transitions. This is not a normal business as usual moment.
And that brings me to 2 more points, and then I'll stop. Organizational development work was when I first met with the Charter Review Commission, I kept asking about that. I said, I realize that we need to look into district representation. And I think that the big issue that I've experienced in my first year at that time in this role was the clutter and the silos and the lack of thoughtful organizational development of the enterprise called the City of Portland. And they said they weren't going to tackle that. They were going to tackle the elected bodies. So we went from 7 electeds to, how do we have 14 now? 14 electeds. And so that's fine, but now we're kind of top heavy up here, and hopefully we have to nail the constituent part. But what do you think the role is for this new form of government to help the city administrator do some really tough work around organizational development, which will be really challenging to do. It always is.
Well,
What
that
are your
is-
thoughts on that? You're thinking.
Yeah, well, that is basically management, change management that it needs to
Yes.
be implemented, and that starts by the planning process that is established, in which goals are going to be established for each of these departments, and then establishing very clear and measurable goals and objectives. You have to have metrics. If you not have a process by which you can assess the progress of the work that is being done and see if we're meeting the goals and objectives, there's no way you can hold people accountable. And that's one of the major issues that the city has right now. There's no way to measure progress that then compares against the budget and the cost of what we're doing, or if what we're doing is effective enough. So I would say that's the first step.
I really appreciate that. And Commissioner Maps and I can attest to that was one of the challenges when we first started bringing the permit task force together, is we had no baselines.
There's
We had
no-
no real-time data.
None.
And of course, we know that's been my line about the homeless partnership work that we
Fix.
try to do with the county.
no kind of
And so I think it really helps that you keep saying that, because there's been some resistance in my experience with every bureau that I brought that type of discipline to. So thank you for that. The last one I'm going to end with is voter education, because when you're out there talking to voters right now, you can't help but become a part of the voter education team. And one thing that I keep hearing that kind of concerns me, and I don't know if I'm answering it right, so I want to put some of you on the spot because I think you're probably better at it than almost anyone in the city, is there's this narrative that's in people's heads that because they get to rank up to 6, they get to vote 6 times or they get to vote 3 times. I'm glad a lot of people's heads are nodding because I hear it quite a bit. And so I let them know there's another way to look at this. And how do you answer that question when you hear it?
Well, you only have one vote. Oh, go ahead.
Say that again?
They only have one vote.
Okay, that's what I say, so I'm actually wanted to say it.
Yes, that is what we express. One vote, but one makes a first ranked choice. But if that candidate gets eliminated, then who's my second, third, fourth choice? But
Oh, that's very
we
thoughtful.
do emphasize one vote. And that is we've encountered that confusion or that misconception.
Almost every other door I go to,
Yeah.
there's that confusion. And I feel like it offers aspirin to their voting headache when you say, oh, no, you still just get one vote. So you have to really focus on, who that number one is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because I think it allows people to go, oh, I don't have, like they feel like they can't turn it in unless they rank up to 6.
They don't
Do you
have
hear that
to.
as well?
Yeah, you don't have to rank up to 6. You can. We
Right.
just say, rank your first choice, rank your second, your third as up to 6 or just 1. And then also don't rank anyone you wouldn't feel comfortable being on council or any elected body as well because of how the votes are counted.
All right, this was affirming. I just wanted to make sure that my voter education advice, which is nonpartisan, is valid and sage, and so thank you. But I was alarmed at how many people thought they had up to 6 votes.
And also, this is the first time the city of Portland has invested in voter education, and the partnership between the city of Portland and also Multnomah County is fabulous. That is the standard, in my opinion, practice of good governance. And so we really believe that voter education should be an investment, a budget priority, and also those strong relationships. You have some great people working on that.
Okay, well, thank you, Destiny, for that. And just know that we work with the county on every issue. Like there's a partnership, and many of them are solid and productive. And it's great to hear that about this process. Thank you all. I'll stop.
Excellent report. Thank you very much. Keep up the good work. Yeah, one final word.
Final
Sure.
word.
Go for it.
I'm gonna, this is to advocate, to ask for the support of the council. Because of all of the issues that have been discussed regarding the challenges that the new council is going to face, and the fact that there are now representing 4 different districts, and there's going to be a lot of competition for resources, we are recommending that there is solid team building training for the new council, even before the January 1st start.
So I'd like to, I actually wrote that down and I meant to comment on it and I forgot. Yes.
Yes.
Spot on.
Thank you.
And I will also say the candidates for council, at least my observation is they are self-actualized in that regard. They are communicating with each other, talking to each other.
Yes.
Sometimes it trips them up a little bit, but on the whole, they are trying to
Yes.
be collaborative and share information. And I think that speaks well to what could happen. And I also want you to know that Michael and the mayor's team, we are also planning to bring together the newly elected commissioners and the mayor, if they would like to be brought together to begin the process of introducing them to the city, to the players in the city, to the bureaus in the city, to the work that we do, how that work gets done, and to help them better understand what they're walking into.
Yeah.
And I'll just underscore what they're walking into.
Yeah.
We're not as stupid as people think.
Well, I don't know, but I
And-
mean.
No, I mean this, and this is honest, genuine input that I will give people. There are a lot of really good people who work very, very hard at the city of Portland, and they are outstanding in the work they do. And sometimes I think it is easy to buy the line. I think President Trump a couple of weeks ago described Portland as a burned out hulk of a city. It's easy to get on to the things are going so poorly train. But the fact of the matter is this council has worked hard to implement initiative after initiative, program after program. We have repivoted city government to address the priorities that we have all agreed on. And frankly, we're showing very positive results. It's not done. Nobody's where we want to be. but things are moving in the right direction. And I hope when they get here, they will realize that the challenges aren't because of a lack of interest, passion, or smarts. It's because these are tough issues. And they are reflective of the divisions and the challenges that our nation is facing writ large. And we, as Commissioner Ryan correctly pointed out, we don't have the span of control over all of the issues that we are currently confronting. So we've actually had to move upstream with other governmental and community partners to address those issues. And I will tell you, the work is tiring, it's exhausting, but it is ultimately gratifying, but it's hard work. And you will be helpful, I think, in helping them to transition here, because for some of them, it's going to be like being hit by a very cold, very large, wet fish when they get in here and realize, wow, there's a lot actually going on here, and it's tough work. And I wish you the best of luck, because I think you can help those new electeds coming in to better manage the tough challenges that they're going to face literally the first 10 minutes they walk in the front door of City Hall. So thank you for being here.
Our best wishes go to all of you too. We recognize it's been very difficult, very difficult problems to address. And we have been very impressed with the staff that has supported our work.
Thank you. We all have
thank
short
you.
attention spans. We get bored easily, so we wanted a challenge, and that's exactly what we got. Thank you. We appreciate it, colleagues. No action is required on this item. It was for our information only. We'll move to the regular agenda, please. This is just it's an update, I guess is how I'd say it. Item number 905, it's a first reading of a non-emergency ordinance, please.
Appropriate grant for $474,244 from the State of Oregon Criminal Justice Commission Organized Retail Theft Grant Program for retail theft missions.
Colleagues, as you know, over the last year, the Portland Police Bureau has been partnering regularly with regional law enforcement, as well as the Multnomah County District Attorney's Office, to conduct task force missions targeting organized retail theft in our area. Unfortunately, recently there was some press that had suggested we've either pulled back or eliminated our efforts around retail theft. I want to make sure that people understand that is 100% not the case. These collaborative efforts have resulted in significant arrests, thousands of dollars worth of stolen property recovered, and has raised both the visibility and the impact of law enforcement. I want to be very clear that the good work of the task force to combat organized retail theft has not stopped, and it will continue for the foreseeable future. The item seeks to appropriate grant funding that the city has received from the Criminal Justice Commission to continue to fund this task force work. Here today to tell us more about this is Lieutenant Josh Craner. Welcome, Lieutenant. And I assume he's online. Is that correct? Great.
There he is.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Josh Craner. I'm a lieutenant with the Portland Police Bureau. I'm currently assigned to day shift at North Precinct, and I'm here today to provide information about PPB's efforts specific to organized retail theft. The Police Bureau is committed to fighting crime and the fear of crime. And since the Organized Retail Theft Task Force began last year, PPB has been working closely with other law enforcement partners to conduct focused missions. Through these joint efforts, PPB has participated in 28 organized retail theft missions since the beginning of the year. Those missions have resulted in approximately 400 arrests, numerous drugs, guns, and other weapons seized, and approximately $500,000 in stolen merchandise recovered. We've also had multiple indictments of individuals involved in these organized retail theft rings. The Portland Police Bureau commits significant resources to ensuring these missions are conducted strategically and in a manner intended to meet the Bureau's goals and the community's expectations. While the Bureau did recently reassign property detectives to focus on investigating violent crime, that reassignment has not impacted our continued commitment to conduct retail theft missions or investigate property crime. To the contrary, these reassignments have forced us to get creative and find new ways to distribute the important work. Our neighborhood response teams from Central Precinct, North Precinct, and East Precinct have combined efforts to run 3 retail theft missions a month citywide, each time focusing on a different area of the city, like Cascade Station, downtown, Lloyd District. These missions have been extremely successful, not only in generating arrests, but also in establishing relationships with local businesses and some of our other stakeholders. Since our neighborhood response teams are spearheading our efforts, acting detectives have been assigned to each neighborhood response team to close cases, conduct follow-up, and investigate organized retail theft rings and related activity. PPB's work to address organized retail theft is working. This grant helps maintain our efforts and do our part to address the nearly $1.4 billion in lost revenue the state of Oregon sees each year due to retail theft. We continue to commit to collaboration with businesses, the community, and other law enforcement partners to maintain this positive momentum. And I'm happy to answer any questions about these efforts that you might have.
Yeah, Josh, I want to thank you, and I want to thank your team, your colleagues, for the incredible work you're doing. And I want to say how sorry I am that the impression was given to the community that you are not doing the incredible work that you are doing. And you can imagine that senior leadership in the police bureau and my staff were run ragged for days after that, as people, particularly large retail, started calling us and say, why are you pulling back? Why are you abandoning organized retail theft? And the reason I pulled this item from the consent agenda, and the reason I wanted people to hear it, is to understand that our retail theft missions are still very active. As you heard, 28 missions so far this year. It's leading to arrests. We're seeing weapons and drugs come off of our street. We're seeing large amounts of stolen merchandise returned to retailers. But most importantly, we want the message to be out there for anybody who thinks that Portland is an easy target because they read that we were. Be clear, we are not. And we will continue to be diligent, and we will continue to fight organized retail theft with every single tool we have available. And we will continue to work with our upstream law enforcement partners to make sure that we are as effective as possible. So Josh, thank you. I don't know if we have any public testimony on this item.
No one signed up.
Very good. Commissioner Ryan has a comment.
Thank you, Josh, for being here. I just wanted to ask this question because I get it a lot when I'm out talking to small businesses in some of our main streets. They continue to have, crime done to their retail outlets, and they call 911 and they just want to hear. I want to hear, like, is this grant helpful in terms of our response to those small businesses that are still wanting to see improvements in terms of response from public safety in terms of their outreach calls? Or is this a
Oh yeah, absolutely. We actually started running these focused retail theft missions last year when I was assigned to Central Precinct, and we did it specifically in the downtown core. And those small businesses especially were just ecstatic to see us out, to see us running these missions. I think they felt like maybe they had been ignored for a period of time, but we were out there running those missions, doing joint missions with the other precincts, getting as much resources as we can dedicated to those areas. And people really felt the impact, not only that the arrests we're making and identifying these individuals, but just the impact of us getting out there and being visible to the community and these businesses.
Now that was helpful to listen to, Josh, but I heard the word Central Precinct. So is this getting out to North Precinct, East Precinct, these practices, or was this pilot done in the central area? Now we're rippling it out to the outer districts?
We've been doing the retail theft missions citywide for a number of months. I would say it's been citywide for approximately 9 months.
Okay.
And we have specifically been trying to rotate it because of the successes that we've had downtown. We've been trying to rotate it to various areas of the city, specifically Cascade Station, Jansen Beach, which is hugely impacted by retail theft.
Yes.
Those are the areas we're trying to get into the most.
Okay, I'm leaving this conversation with hope that there's progress, and I probably will loop back with you, Josh, just to get a better understanding. I think people were reading about it as a test that was occurring downtown, and they were wanting that in their main street outside of downtown, and you're telling me there's motion in the right direction on that. Okay, thanks.
Thank you for asking that, Commissioner Ryan. Josh, thank you for your tremendous work. We appreciate it. This is a first reading of a non-emergency ordinance. It moves to second reading. Next item, please. Item 906, an emergency ordinance.
pay settlement of the estates of Kelsey Edmonds, Seth Thompson, and Robert Vermillion wrongful death lawsuit for $500,000 involving Portland Fire and Rescue and planning and sustainability.
Colleagues, this ordinance resolves a claim filed back in December of 2021. Deputy City Attorneys Ryan Bailey and Senior Claims Analyst Rose Radich are allegedly here to walk us through the ordinance, but I see somebody else. I see Justin sitting in front of me, so I'll turn it over to whoever is doing this presentation.
Great, thank you, Mayor. Jonas Beery.
Jonas, I'm sorry, I said Justin. Jonas.
That's fine, I've been called plenty worse. Jonas Beery,
By me as
Deputy
well.
City Administrator of Budget and Finance and City's Chief Financial Officer. We do have staff online who are going to talk about this, but just as an introduction, the estates of Kelsey Edmonds, Seth Thompson, and Robert Vermillion through attorney Scott Lucas have filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the property owner and others resulting from an apartment complex fire on July 4th, 2021. The property owner has filed a third-party complaint against the city alleging negligence contributing to the fire. City Attorney, Risk Management Services, Portland Fire and Rescue, and the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability recommend a lawsuit be compromised for $500,000 from the City of Portland. The full settlement is $900,000, with the remaining $400,000 to be paid by Liberty Mutual Insurance for Heiberg Garbage and Recycling per the terms of their permit with the city. And I'll now hand to representatives from City Attorney's Office, James McCurdy with Lindsay Hart, and also Rose Radich with City Risk Management Team, who are all online.
Good morning. My name is Ryan Bailey. I'm the Deputy City Attorney. Our outside legal counsel is not here today. I was the supervising attorney for this case, and it was agreed that I would appear for the legal team while they're in a pre-trial matter for this case today. I'm happy to answer any questions the council may have about this. Otherwise, Mr. Beery did a fantastic job summarizing our consensus motion.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. Does that complete your presentation?
Yes, it does.
Do
Thank
we
you.
have public testimony on this
No
item?
one signed up.
Please call the roll. It's an emergency ordinance.
Maps.
Aye.
Ryan.
Aye.
Gonzalez.
Aye.
Wheeler.
This was one of the saddest events that I have had to witness as mayor of Portland. And I want to express to all of the families who are impacted by this how sorry I am that this took place. And I know how deeply traumatizing this has been for the families. And while I cannot necessarily put myself into your shoes, I want you to know that all of these years later, I very much carry the trauma as well. Not to the same degree that you experience, but this opened a lot of doors for me to better understand why our codes matter, why our restrictions and regulations matter, and why, how quickly, if they aren't adhered to, things can go really horribly wrong. So I'm grateful that we're able to reach this resolution. I think it's the right thing to do. I vote aye. The settlement is approved and the ordinance is adopted. Thank you, Jonas. Next item, 907, first reading of a non-emergency ordinance.
Vacate portions of Northeast Alameda Street and Northeast 58th Avenue, subject to certain conditions and reservations.
Second reading, any further discussion? Call the roll.
Maps.
Aye.
Ryan.
Aye.
Gonzalez.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. Ordinance is adopted. Next item, 908, first reading of a non-emergency ordinance.
Amend code to align with the amended city charter approved by voters in Portland Measure 26-228.
Colleagues, as you know, in November of 2022, voters approved amendments to Portland's city charter, as we were discussing earlier, fundamentally changing Portland's form of government. As such, a significant amount of city code needs to be changed or updated to align with the voter-approved city charter. Before we start, the city attorney's office has requested that we remove Title 14 from this ordinance since additional work is required. Therefore, I move to strike Directive A and Exhibit A from the ordinance. Can I get a second?
Second.
Commissioner Mapp, second. Any further discussion on the amendment? Keelan, please call the roll on the amendment.
Maps.
Aye.
Ryan.
Aye.
Gonzalez.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. The amendment's adopted, and with that, I would like to welcome City Administrator Mike Jordan sitting to my right. I think we have analyst Diana Shiplett is here as well, including our city attorney. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. What you have before you is kind of the first wave of 4 waves of code change that will be coming to you over the next month and a half or so. These are all required well, let me back up. Many of these changes are required to conform with the charter language that was adopted by voters back in 2022. However, in the examination of every title of code to make that conforming analysis, we are also looking at changes of antiquated language, trying to make some judgments about the balance of authority between the legislative branch and the executive branch. So there's a number of things in these changes that are before you. And I will mention that I know there have been some briefings on this wave. We also have a work session scheduled with you next Tuesday to take a look at the subsequent waves that are coming. I want to take the opportunity to thank the staff, and when I say the staff, I mean a lot of people. Certainly Robert and his office, City Attorney's Office, have been on point for much of this. I have particular thanks for Diana Shiplett. She has been on this job for what must seem like years and years and years, even though it has only been like a year and a half-ish, I think, that we've been working intensely. And subject matter experts from practically every bureau have been involved in this also. So a big lift, a lot of code changes, and we'll get started with the first wave today. So thank you guys for being here.
Thank you, Mike. Good morning, Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Diana Shiplett. I use she and her pronouns, and I'm a strategic policy analyst with the Charter Transition Team. Today, I'm bringing forward the first of 4 updates to City Code required by the voter-approved amendments to the City Charter. Before I begin, as Mike alluded to, I want to thank all of the city staff who have helped with this work. I've had the pleasure of working with staff from every bureau, and universally, their advice, assistance, and attention to details have been much appreciated. I also want to apologize in advance for how large the size of these code changes are. I recognize how challenging it is to read and understand hundreds of pages of code, and I truly wish that there was an easier way to align the code with charter. Next slide. I'm sure everyone on the dais has seen this slide, but for community members who are unaware, in November of 2022, Portlanders voted to change the city government in 3 significant ways. Next slide. First, allowing voters to rank candidates in order of their preference, using ranked choice voting beginning in November, and beginning with the November 2024 election, just around the corner. Second, creating 4 new geographic districts with 3 members elected to represent each district, expanding the city council to a total of 12 members. And third, replacing our current commission form of government with a city council that focuses on setting policy and a mayor elected citywide to run the city's day-to-day operations with the help of a professional city administrator. Today's proposed updates ensure these changes are reflected in city code and that the next mayor and councilors are able to successfully begin their work. Next slide. So what changes are necessary with these revised charter to match with the revised charter? Next slide. First, we will need to update all the authorities in code. We are removing the commissioner in charge and replacing it with either the city administrator or the mayor or the council, whichever is most appropriate. Such as in the example shown here, where we replace the commissioner in charge with city administrator. Next slide. Second, at your direction, we are giving the city administrator the authority to direct the work of the bureaus, adopt administrative rules, and approve contracts and agreements. While we did not have to give this authority specifically to the city administrator, because by charter the city administrator is already tasked with the proper and efficient administration of the city affairs, we recognize that consistency and clarity in code is useful and likely helpful to future administrations. The city administrator may delegate any of these authorities to the appropriate person, program, or bureau for the efficient running of the city. Next slide. The next set of changes are more administrative in nature. First, to keep the appropriate separation between the legislative authority of the council and the administrative or executive authorities of the mayor and city administrator, we are removing any administratively focused sections of code. Bureaus are currently reviewing these sections to ensure that they are up to date and will be placing them in administrative rules, or also known as Portland policy documents. This ensures that the future council does not inadvertently step into administrative rulemaking when they are prohibited from doing so by the charter. The example shown is one that is both administrative, so does not belong in code, and outdated, so putting it into administrative rule may ultimately be unnecessary. But bureaus are currently reviewing all the code sections being deleted and editing them as necessary before updating into administrative policies. Next slide. Another administrative change is to remove any outdated remove or update any outdated information, such as the example definition shown, which removes the definition of commissioner and replaces it with the definition of counselor. Next slide. And lastly, we are making some general language updates, such as removing gendered language by replacing he, him, his, her, or hers with their, or the specific title of the person in question. Next slide. We are also changing shall to must, will, or may at the request of the city attorney's office. Next slide. And lastly, we are reflecting changes to the city's organization approved by council both last November and last May by updating program and bureau names. The example here shows how the revenue division is now actually the revenue service program of the city administrator. Next slide. And here are the titles we are proposing to replace today. They're mostly regulatory in nature. However, I will note that late yesterday afternoon, we discovered that one section in Title 14 has been inadvertently omitted. In order to ensure that nothing else has been left out, we are requesting a motion be made to remove both Directive A and Exhibit A from the ordinance. And I believe Mayor Wheeler has that recommended motion language. Next slide. Just to preview what is coming up next.
We did it.
Oh, that one, we already did it, yes.
Just to preview what's coming up next. Next slide. On October 30th, we'll be bringing forward titles related to finance. Next slide. And on November 13th, we will be anticipating another significantly large group of titles, mostly related to the general provisions of the city. And next slide. And the final set of titles we're anticipating to come before you on November 20th are mostly regulatory in nature again. And the reason why we bundled these in this order is because we heard throughout this transition how difficult it is to view and update codes in isolation of one another. And so we are trying to bundle them in ways that they talk to each other. So that is the end of my presentation. I'm happy to take questions.
All right, Commissioner Mapps.
Thank you for the presentation and thank you for this work in this space. I think I'm going to make a statement which ultimately might result in a question, which probably should be addressed by the city attorney and the city administrator. Broadly, what I see in this space is we're kind of shifting power from bureau directors and council over to city administrators, which makes sense in the context of what charter reform did. However, in the context of Title 24, which deals with building regulations, one of the things that we also see is we're shifting power in some cases from our engineers to the city administrator. And I think if you go through that code, I think we talk about engineers 121 times or something. And at least in the work that I have done in this space, I feel like there are certain situations by state law and probably good practice, our chief engineers have unique authorities, which I think probably legally can't be shifted over. And there are probably some situations where just out of good practice, you don't want to shift those powers over to someone who doesn't necessarily have the technical training. There's a lot going on here. I've been trying to go through and get a sense of what's happening in this space. There's there are literally 121 instances of that. I haven't had a chance to fully master that, but I guess Mike do you know how deeply we looked at that specific issue?
I'll let Diana talked about how deeply looked at. I think Robert might want to comment as to form that we are looking at the entire code on, and then I can maybe speak specifically to the engineer issue.
Okay.
So.
Actually, I'm going to have Robert start.
Thank you, Commissioner. Robert Taylor, City Attorney. That's a great question. It is an issue that we are aware of, and there's a couple of different ways we're trying to address that. So first, in the Title 24 amendments, you'll see there's a provision that says the city administrator will enforce, except where by state law it needs to be the building official. So we try to accommodate that. Elsewhere, where we're removing engineer and replacing it with city administrator, it's contemplated that the city administrator will delegate those duties to the engineer. So it's removing it in code, placing the code authority to the city administrator, and then relying on the city administrator's charter authority to delegate those specialized roles to those people with that expertise.
I appreciate that, and this is probably a conversation for my colleagues. I think I'm sensitive to the unique powers that we've given engineers, probably because of my work in the permitting space. Often we have competing engineers, or we have maybe 3 different engineers who have some role here, and ultimately we have some engineer who is ultimately in charge. And we all know, as members of council, we get a lot of pressure from folks who want to build stuff to just get the darn permit out the door. Sometimes, one of the reasons why we have the hangups is there are authentic kind of safety concerns or engineering concerns. I hate to see those. We want to be, I literally know everyone on this council wants to be business friendly. I also know that as a steward of government, we also want to build safe stuff and stuff that is well designed. I can think of a particular instance which still resonates with me. Probably a couple of years ago, we did some adjustments to, I think, our building codes around earthquake safety regulations and whatnot. And we had our chief engineer in charge of that space come here. And as I'm thinking about making changes to codes, earthquake safety codes, I kind of want to look the engineer in charge in the eye and ask him, is this going to be safe? And be assured that, for professional reasons, the answer I get back is going to be based on engineering as opposed to kind of political pressure. And in some instances, I think that, I'm sure what we're doing here is just kind of straightforward housekeeping. In other instances, I am a little bit afraid, or one of my fears is there may be instances here where we're shifting basic safety decisions from an engineering space into a political space. I cannot point to a specific passage right here that says where we're necessarily doing that, but I think it's something that deserves a little bit of scrutiny. If I have I will find the time to look at this more closely between now and when this comes back to council. But this is one of the concerns I have in this particular space.
Can I build off of that?
Sure.
Go ahead. So one of my challenges in digesting the code you provided, and I think our staff had some questions on a component of it, is what is clearly called for by the new charter and where there's greater degree of judgment. Because the other way to look at those same questions is we may specify the way we think this should work right now, but the next city administrator, the next mayor may change their mind, and they might change their mind a year after that. And to have to go back to code to address things that will need administrative flexibility, that's just a general concern as to how do we assure that administrative flexibility. And then secondarily, not getting too granular in the designation of, or really the delegation, right? Because the and we had some specific sections that I think our staff reached out to on. Some of them were in 14A, which you pulled, or in 14, but it also permeates 24. Is this, do we need to be specific in code, or do we just leave that to the city administrator or mayor to do on the administrative side, as to specify who has authority on a particular question that may involve executive judgment, or maybe prescribed by state law, and that stuff all may change. So it's trying to create flexibility with the same humility that you've just offered. I can't necessarily flesh out how this is going to work. I just know that if it is executive or administrative in nature, those things can change with time based on different understandings of the legal environment outside the city, or just what makes sense from an organizational perspective. Maybe that's a position we're not going to fund anymore, or we're going to call it something else. And to do it in code becomes more of a problem in the new form of government than it arguably is now. So I don't know if you have thoughts on that, Robert. I mean, it's in how to navigate this right now as a body, trying to set things up with as much fidelity as possible to what the new charter contemplates, recognizing it's not going to crystal clearly answer all of these type of questions.
Yeah, that's a great question, Commissioner, and it's one that we have really wrestled with throughout this process. And the changes that Commissioner Mapps raised, where we're removing director, for example, or engineer, for example, and giving it to the city administrator or their designee, that is an effort to try to shift that authority to the executive branch and then give the city administrator the administrative flexibility to decide how to delegate that. And so that's our effort, to try to be faithful to the charter that ultimately makes the city administrator in charge of all employees on the executive branch. And I think your point is well taken, as far as what is in the code and remains in the code will always be subject to the new council needing to change it. And that comes with opportunities and challenges. And we have, I think the way I look at this, and the way I would invite you to look at this, is we've made our best effort now, just a couple of months before 2025, to try to strike that right balance in the code and with these changes. And I think it's important for the community to understand that there's going to be a long conversation over the next few years, maybe a decade, where the executive and the council have this conversation about what should be in the code or not. What authority does council have versus the mayor? And that is normal. And I think that's to be expected. And I think it's very, very hard for any of us to sit here right now and say, this is what we should set in stone forever. This is what we think is the best way to handle this right now, with the recognition that the mayor and the council in the future are going to have these conversations. And I think that's normal and to be expected.
Yeah, and I think the challenge for us is just trying to figure out where we think it's a closer call versus where it feels more black and white, right? That's the recognizing we had to create space for that future dialogue, and just giving the volume of the code here. It's trying to find a needle in a haystack, or not. Whether there's areas that where more judgment was exercised than in others. And so maybe just over the next week, as we're kind of fully processing that, you can help my team sort of identify that. Again, we had some specific questions, and I think we've gotten some partial answers on it, but that would be help us deliberate on where we want to go deep. The other sort of general question is, when we specify the city administrator, we still have this charter contemplated authority of the mayor and then city administrator. And my only question is, are we inadvertently creating some daylight between those two in the way we codify executive authority here? And I'm not saying we are, it's just when we specify in code that the city administrator shall have this authority, is that implicitly saying this is the way the legislative branch thinks this should work? Or is it implicit that anytime you say city administrator, the mayor can always overrule them by their inherent charter power? And I'm not necessarily expecting you to fully weigh in on that right now, but I just want to be careful that we're not inadvertently creating a space for future daylight. Ultimately the mayor can remove the city administrator, but that's not really hopefully not the mechanism you'd have to leverage to address this potential for inadvertent creation of daylight.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And in big picture wise, the employees in the executive branch are supervised by the city administrator. And the city administrator reports to the mayor. And I agree with you. It's not great if we have to rely on the fact that the mayor can fire the city administrator if there is that daylight and that disagreement. But ultimately, that is the power.
Right. Well,
and that power is what the mayor can use to make sure that the city administrator faithfully does what the administrator is supposed to do. And there should not be daylight. And if there is, I think the charter contemplates how that gets handled.
Well, and I generally agree with you. I would just supplement that with the separately articulated rulemaking authority of the next mayor, particularly when we're looking at existing code. We're concluding that in the future, this will be done by administrative rules because it's not inherently legislative in nature, in which I totally am aligned on that being the framing. Again, there's going to be judgment calls. That's just the reality in this space. But I guess that's my other general observation. Are we inadvertently creating any ambiguity as to whether the mayor can, but which is explicit in the charter, they have rulemaking authority. So if council is approving the way rules are going to be made, does that create ambiguity? But now I'm actually thinking this out loud as I say that. We're really talking about designating professionals in the workforce that are going to have certain responsibility, and we're saying that city administrator could in the future change that. That's a little bit different than specifying who's going to make rules. But then the example we just look at, is that I'm sorry, I'm thinking this out loud, but I'm just processing the difference between delegation and who's going to make the rules as specified in the code. Did my free frame there make any sense to you?
Well, the city administrator can both make administrative rules and also delegate that rulemaking authority down to a specific bureau or person within the bureau. So, for example, if the Bureau of Finance has specific rules to them, the city administrator can delegate that they can make those rules because they clearly are the subject matter experts. So they have both sides of that.
Yeah, and I don't want to create maybe this is something never comes up, but just trying to continue to contemplate the fact that the mayor separately has rulemaking authority and that is charter created, and just trying not to create a question mark in the code we're adopting. You're solving for one problem, and I just want to make sure we're taking into account the potential for another. But I'll just leave it at that unless you had some further thoughts on it, Robert.
Oh, I would want to revisit with you the rulemaking authority, and the way I would read the charter is that it explicitly gives the city administrator the administrative rulemaking authority. The mayor, again, supervises the city administrator. So if you have a city administrator that is promulgating administrative rules that the mayor does not like, disagrees with, that's a management issue between the mayor and the city administrator. That's how that, I think the charter contemplates that's how that is going to work. And Diana is right. There's the administrative rulemaking. So for example, the administrator can promulgate administrative rules for how a bureau is going to approve payments to vendors, right? There's also a delegation of authority issue, which would be city administrator gets to approve all out-of-state travel. The city administrator can delegate the authority to sign those approvals to the deputy city administrators, to bureau directors, and that's a separate authority to do that. Again, under the charter, all the employees in the executive branch report up to the city administrator, and the mayor is ultimately responsible and in charge of what the city administrator is doing.
Well, and it's the last observation that I'll turn over to my colleagues. So there's the manifestation of executive decision, which could be a rule, but there's also the concept of executive order, a mayoral order that is, again, it's inherent in the charter as articulated. I'm just trying to think through how those things would work together outside of an emergency declaration, which has its own mechanics. But if you're operationalizing something with an executive order, how does that interplay with rules promulgated by the city administrator?
I mean, I could foresee under the charter where the mayor would sign an executive order directing the administrator to do X, Y, and Z. I think where we would have it's more of a management problem than a legal problem, but if you have the city administrator promulgating a set of administrative rules to do one thing and the mayor issuing an executive order to do something totally different, and the mayor and the administrator are not aligned, the charter contemplates that gets resolved. That's a management issue between the mayor and the city administrator. And I think
it might be a legal question too. I don't think that's just a management question. I think that is, I don't know. I think that, just a bit too fine a point on it, but I think there's an argument executive order could overrule an administrative rule.
And I think if I was faced with that problem as the lawyer, my advice would be that the mayor and the city administrator need to get on the same page as far as the direction of the city.
Sure.
That's the way to solve that.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
Yeah.
I hear Mike making noises over here.
Okay.
When I jump in,
I have not made a single noise.
Mike, didn't mean to make you sweat.
Well, maybe that makes a sound. When I sweat. I don't know.
Awesome. I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you have anything?
No, and I think this, first of all, I think this discussion is the right discussion to have, okay? We're anticipating how a form of government will work without having worked it yet really very much. And so we're doing the best we can at thinking about how will the legislative, executive branch, and the administrator work together. To Commissioner Mapps's concern about chief engineers, I would say that a city administrator that does not delegate that authority to an engineer is an idiot.
Same with a mayor, right? Like
And the mayor only gets to delegate executive authority to the administrator, other than the chief of police. So I just got a text that says Robert is correct about the mayor's ability to make administrative rules.
Is that from Robert?
They don't have that. No, he didn't send the text. But I guess the bigger point here is that while we can do the best we can with what should be in code, what is clearly kind of legislation that gives us the authority to make rules and operate the government, there will be Robert's absolutely right, there's going to be an ongoing dialogue between the legislative branch and the executive for years about whose authority should be exercised when. And then I think Robert's absolutely right. The reason I think we have brought all of the authority to the administrator is because that's the only person in this new government that's accountable to both the council unilaterally with a 9-vote majority and to the mayor unilaterally. And the mayor or the council can't fire the chief engineer. So I think structurally that's the right thing to do. And then operationally, you're going to hold your administrator accountable for having the right authorities delegated to the right places so the city is protected from liability and issues that we want to be careful about, safety and all those things. So I know it's a little different for us than we've ever done before. I will just say there are 24 cities in the Portland metropolitan region on the Oregon side of the river. 23 of them run the way we're anticipating. We're the only one that doesn't run that way. So all other cities, Beaverton just recently, but all other cities vest the entire administrative authority for the city in the city manager. And so we're moving to where everybody else is. We're going to have to practice. There's no question. And there will be artful conversations between council, mayor, and administrator on a number of things as we move forward, I think. We're just trying to take our best shot here. And here's the way we think it should run, and now you guys have to kind of have dialogue when it might be a little gray. And I guarantee you it's going to be a little gray once in a while. So that's my 2 bits. Thank you for asking, Commissioner.
Did you have one?
Commissioner Ryan has his hand up.
Commissioner Ryan.
You're before me, you could go. Were you done? I liked what you did when you heard.
Heard me sweat.
Yeah, well, no. I appreciate the dialogue. And I'll just underscore, we've gotten deeply into the weeds, but I do think this is an important space, which I hope our future councilors or city commissioners are listening. I do think that the powers of that we currently have invested in the chief engineers, it strikes me as being fundamentally different from the transfer of powers from council or directors to the city administrator. And, here's a situation that literally happens all the time, and we all experience it. Someone wants to build something, maybe affordable housing, and they discover what our permitting system or what our rules say you have to do around managing stormwater, and they go, I could build more affordable housing in this town if you just wouldn't make me comply with these ridiculous stormwater management rules or these ridiculous rules around building a sidewalk and whatnot. And they ain't wrong. And I will tell you, we got several mega projects that will be coming into the city pretty soon, and a delay of some of these projects could literally cost some folks $1 million a day. The political pressure is going to be enormous here, and I just want to make sure that we're making the decisions on there'll be a lot of political pressure on the city administrator. I just hope that we build stuff that is safe and consistent with our values, and I think that we might be changing the tilt of the table as we move power away from the engineers. I will also say no engineer in the city has allowed me beyond this. This is just sort of my work experience here. So, and I will reach out to our engineers to see what they think about the codes or the proposed changes that are in place. But this is just one of the concerns I have when I look at
I appreciate the concern, and it's a real one. I would suspect that the engineers from the 3 infrastructure bureaus, chief engineers, have been involved in these discussions. So
I'll just ask.
Certainly.
Great. First of all, thank you, Diana, for that clustering explanation. That was really helpful. I just knew that a lot of these were coming, and it's a heavy agenda topic when you hear this, and yet there's also a lot of administrative housekeeping that's in here. So I'm trying to decipher what merits some dialogue and what is how annoying that I'm asking you questions about something that's just changing very important things, like changing the pronouns, but I don't need to get into that. That said, could you put up what we're focused on today? Because I got lost in these great conversations and I can't remember exactly what.
Oh, the titles
Yeah,
that
you
we're
had
focused on?
Yeah, the visual that you said this is a cluster that we're focusing on today.
Yeah, we'll bring it up.
And Keelan always finds things. Thanks, Keelan.
She's faster than I am.
And I think this gets on the dialogue we've been having lately about that we're moving forward with a look at the clutter. I'm going to use that word a lot probably in the next 3 months that we have with our commissions and advisory boards and how they, I think each bureau has known this for some time. And this started because of the presentation by the Housing Bureau, right? Yeah. So I think I was trying to see if there was a connection between, maybe this is what I need to ask. Since civic life had a responsibility in the fading form of government that we have over this, have they been included in that conversation?
So I can say that for the titles that we are bringing forward, we are removing any advisory bodies that are no longer active. We're just eliminating them from code. We are not making changes
I'm
to
just curious
current.
about that statement. Are there quite a few that aren't very active?
Yeah.
Oh, look at your face. There are. Okay.
Yeah. There are ones that haven't been active in about 30 years and are still in code. And so, yeah, it's just housekeeping. So we're
Yeah, but
making
this
some
is
of those
the stuff.
housekeeping.
Like, thank God
Yeah.
we're doing this now. It's like we haven't done inventory. When we were doing the permit reforms, that became the biggest issue. Is we just kept adding more and more codes, but we weren't getting rid of them. And the customer would be like, someone found this old code, and now they're talking about that, but no one had any institutional memory around it. So
yeah.
a longer topic, but we have to figure out just routine maintenance is a thing our city has to figure out. We need routine clutter cleanup. Keep going.
Fully agree with that.
Yeah.
But we are not touching the currently active bodies because we recognize that is a much larger and a much longer conversation and one that we are engaging civic life on, but is probably going to take us longer than we will be able to do in the next 2
What's
months
the
of getting
definition
these.
of active?
Definition of active. I know that I'm not the one leading any of that work, but I know that some of that is being focused on the position that is the officer related to engagement. Sorry, I had a blank moment on which officer it was. So Shoshana might actually be able to speak more to that. Yeah.
Hi, Shoshana.
Hi, thank you so much. So just wanted to let you know where we are with reporting back. Several weeks ago, City Administrator Jordan committed to coming back to this body with more updates around advisory bodies. You raised some excellent questions today, as well as at your previous hearings about that. What you should expect is a memo that outlines roles and responsibilities and authorities, and then a project plan on how to address the hundreds of advisory bodies. So we're kind of thinking that there are maybe 3 buckets of those of those advisory bodies. Those that are in charter, like the Charter Commission, the Independent District Commission, those that are established with rules and responsibilities and appointing processes. Then there are ones in code which vary in terms of appointing processes and how they are established and how they are sunset. And then there are many, many ad hoc advisory bodies, like the Government Transition Advisory Committee, not in code, but appointed by this body. So we're trying to organize that so that you can, like Diana organized today's presentation, so you can digest the different roles and responsibilities in the different spaces related to advisory bodies. So more coming.
Up so the new council can make decisions with the mayor's office on such things. And most importantly, I think I want to ask is, I want to make sure the city manager and the DCAs have a lot of influence over what they're seeing on how to run their practice area and what advisory boards would actually be helpful.
That's exactly right.
So it's that coupled with, I think, with the advice we heard, I'm paraphrasing, but then to take some of the advice from the GTAC on how we can rethink the composite of those groups. I think right now I've had challenges each time I look at one of how out of balance they are in terms of perspective. And so, and then now with district geography, we could have some of that into the thinking as well.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's exactly right. We want the service areas to have the advice and counsel from community that they
Yeah.
need in this new organization. Our advisory bodies are built for our previous government structure as well as our previous organization. So we're modernizing that as well as we're moving through this.
I think the elevation we're supposed to be at here, I want to stay focused on that. And then I want to really keep trusting what you're doing with some of this very important cleanup. I had no idea there were so many inactive. You didn't either, right?
Not till
Yeah.
I started reading, no.
Okay, I just wanted to dive into that because it's been a relevant dialogue up here and I wanted to see how that was coming. I think I'll stop there. I have a better sense of the journey we're on here, so, yeah.
All right, very good. Any further questions? Do we have public testimony?
We have one person signed up.
One person, let's hear it.
Harry Harris.
Here he is, one of our most engaged citizens in Portland, Oregon. We thank you, and thanks for being here for the whole day.
Somebody's got to do it.
Glad you do.
The conversation you just had was superb, and asking a lot of questions and that need answers. And my concerns, I'm going to add one other little wrinkle, is that the charter reforms also set the new council as the policymaking body, okay? And so when you're talking about writing administrative rules, they need to be administrative. And and they need to be tagged to a specific legislatively granted authority. It's like basic separation of power stuff. Now, the problem in these edits that you have before you is that if you read the lines in the edits, it strikes out the specificity to the section of code and just says the city administrator may draft administrative rules according to the charter, period. That creates, I think, too much broad sweeping authority to the city administrator when it really needs to be limited by the council, and the current code does that. So I worry that the edits that you have are going too far. And I know you struck Title 14. Title 14 does it 7 times, okay? There is specific rulemaking authorities granted to the city administrator for 7 different reasons in that Title 14 code. I just think the approach is incorrect. The other thing that I'd mention too is that the delegation, we're talking about how that delegation of the administrator's authority goes down into the bureaus, to the directors, to the engineers, that sort of stuff. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what happens. Is it a memo? Is it an email? Or is it just general direction? I think there has to be some structure to it, and I think that might be in the administrative code that is coming up for approval in the next round. So it's hard to give advice, 30 seconds, hard to give good advice now without having that structural stuff available to look at. Finally, I'll just say, these codes came out for public notice and review on Friday. Can we get a little bit more time to get more eyes on this and do the checks? You know, I did some of these checks, and it concerned me enough to stick around after the GTAC meeting, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Can I ask you to stay right there?
Yeah.
I wanted great questions, great points, and we neglected to mention the rulemaking point that you raised. One of the things that has developed over many years in our current code is there's different bureaus have different rulemaking authority, different rulemaking processes. And under the charter for 2025, it contemplates that the city administrator will promulgate the administrative rules. And so we are eliminating where Different codes have different rulemaking processes. We are eliminating that and centralizing it on the city administrator. And you are seeing that, and you're correct. What you will see also is when the Title I changes come, there is a unified, centralized rulemaking process that the city administrator or their designee will use to promulgate administrative rules. So you're seeing Part 1 now, Part 2 is coming. And that's our effort to really try to align the rulemaking under the city administrator consistent with the charter. Your second point about how do these delegations work and how will they be formalized? There's a project happening right now to do just that thing. And as far as how are we going to document those and what form they're going to be, how they're going to be compiled. And so, yes, that right to raise that as an issue, and that is something that we're working on.
Yeah, I'd just supplement that with a couple of observations. In the private sector, delegation of authority is addressed fairly. I mean, there's multiple solutions for how to do that, and if it's directly derived from executive leadership, you often adopt a kind of form of delegation of authority that's maybe signed by one person that has the authority to delegate, and when I draft them, they're typically revocable at any time. You put through the broad authority to take it away at any time, but that can be done with a piece of paper from the person who has the authority. The other piece, just to note, I follow your logic on policy articulated by council, but there are inherent powers and authority in the charter specified for the executive branch that just want to be clear about, that are not dependent on what council may grant to the executive or to whether we're talking about the city administrator or mayor here. I'm going to use them somewhat interchangeably. But the broader point as to what is policy versus what is administrative versus executive, I mean, these are 100-year-old plus questions that we've been dealing with at the federal level. And that's maybe it's all going to be crystal clear, and I suspect we're going to reach points where it's not all crystal clear. And certainly council can delegate further authorities, which they often do, to set rules in certain areas in other comparable forms of government. I just want to be crystal clear. Executive administrative authority is separately granted in the charter and is not only derivative of what legislative branch grants. That's all.
Great. All right. So this is a first reading of a non-emergency ordinance. It moves to second reading, and I think we're adjourned. Was there more? Sorry.
Did we make the motion to remove the?
Yes.
Okay,
We did
good.
that.
Sorry, missed the beginning.
Yeah, so
I
it moves to
apologize.
second reading as amended.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll see you all back here at 2 p.m. We're adjourned.